Right, I think we're live. I'm going to wait for 12 o'clock to come up in the top right-hand corner. The family is downstairs. It's going to give me some technical feedback if it isn't any good. Maybe they can give me a shout. Yes, it's okay. It's working. That's great news. Okay, I think it is now 12 o'clock, which means we are live. So welcome to Earth Live Lesson. This is, I think, the third or fourth day of this incredible initiative by Lizzie Daly. Thanks very much for inviting me along. I feel like I'm channeling Chris Packham. This is after 4 years of being a producer on Springwatch. It's a bit weird. So yeah, the pros are watching. Anyway, here we are. I've been relegated to my bedroom, as is typical in this current situation. I had hoped to have a rather nice studio down in the sitting room with tadpoles and all sorts of things, but you can imagine what they'd have been like. Anyway, as I said, Lizzie's invited me to do this, and unlike some of the other people that you might have seen already, you might not know really who I am. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about me. So, is it frozen downstairs? We'll see. Hopefully you are still all right. I'll move it a bit closer to the Wi-Fi. Hopefully it's fine. The technical people will tell me, including a 5-year-old. Yeah, so I'm here to talk about Night on Earth, which is a new series on Netflix, which which it's not frozen, it's fine. And we were lucky enough to live next to a large lake full of amphibians and reptiles, fire-bellied toads, tree frogs, snakes, terrapins. And one of my earliest memories is going up to my dad with an armful of snake and saying, "Dad, look at this." And my dad saying, "Put it down." And me saying, "Well, that is a grass snake. It's not working." Okay, I'm going to move to a better location to get some more Wi-Fi. I'm going to bring my props with me. You're going to have to, this is the beauty of live television, I guess. So you're going to get a little insight to my house, which wasn't entirely expected. Hopefully this will pick up better now. Right, here we go. Past the jigsaw, past the 5-year-old. Okay. Will the technical gurus please tell me if it's working? We're now down in the sitting room where I wanted to be anyway, so perfect. Yeah, and my dad said, "Put down the snake." And I said, "No, it's a grass snake." And he said, "Well, put it down anyway." But that was me and my precocious love of wildlife. So after that, I eventually got a degree in zoology at Bristol University. And while I was there, a friend of mine said, oh, it's working, just about. A friend of mine said, why don't we're not going to get jobs unless we make one ourselves. So we set up a project to go and study an animal in the Solomon Islands. And I've got here a skull of what it was. So you can try and tell me, I'll try and make it not too funny, what that animal was. That looks pretty terrifying, doesn't it? Look at those massive teeth. The points for the first that animal, there's a bit more, the size. And that was already dead when I found it, don't worry. So we spent 6 months studying those animals in the Solomon Islands, and we made a radio program. And I thought, well, this is rather nice. I'm traveling the world, telling people stories about what we're doing. And I thought, well, maybe television is the career for me. So that is what I did. I wrote to a load of production companies, and I got a job in a small company in London that no longer exists. And then eventually worked my way down to the BBC Natural History Unit, where I made a natural world about killer whales beneath the surface. And then I worked on Springwatch for 4 years, which was, as you can imagine, fantastic. I remember the fantastic series called Night on Earth. And it was Netflix's second biggest commission after Our Planet. We started filming in May 2018, and we had a year. And during that time, we set up 60 shoots in 30 different countries around the world. And the idea was to reveal what night is like around the planet and how the animals react in all sorts of key habitats. We did jungles, the frozen poles. We did the open plains. We did cities, and we did a program called Dusk Till Dawn, which sort of encompassed the whole lot. I'm feeling a little bit awkward. I'm wondering if it's frozen because my family's telling me it might be. So if someone could say in the right-hand side there whether I am actually animate, that would be great. We've made an entire series about what happens after dark. People had obviously done the odd sequence. It is working. That's great. Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Emily. It was the first time that this invitation to enter this dark frontier had really happened. So that was pretty exciting. And the reason we were able to do it was that the technology had changed. We were suddenly able to film in the dark. Now, when I first started filming, I went on a shoot to the jungle and we were using film cameras, and we would use 400 ASA. This is in the 90s. So you might remember your little Instamatic cameras from Boots or wherever, and they would be about 100 or 200 ASA. Our film camera could go to 400 ASA. We went to 800 ASA, and that's basically light sensitivity. And that meant if you were in the jungle, you could just about see what was going on in the daytime. But if a cloud went over the top or it started getting towards sunset, you'd have to pack up and go home. But in recent years, there's been a revolution in cameras. So the first one, which was pretty exciting, was that we were able to film by moonlight. I've got here a little gimmick, which is my prop. Now, if you can't see this, then you're going to have to look at my Twitter account, Bill Markham 99, where I've posted these pictures this morning. But here is a picture. This isn't going to work, is it? No, you're just seeing a reflection of my garden. Flamingos after dark. I didn't think this would work. Anyway, believe it or not, that's some incredible imagery of flamingos by moonlight in Mexico. And that was incredible. We could film by moonlight and see these incredible animals, what they get up to in the dark, without shining bright lights on them, without putting infrared lights on them, but just by moonlight. And we discovered that for a few days around full moon, you could then see these animals in action doing what they do. I was lucky enough to go on a shoot to Zimbabwe for this. We went to see what elephants do after dark, and what they do in Zimbabwe. It's sort of in our autumns of October and November, they have to travel huge distances to look for water. And they do this in the cool of the night, but also to kind of escape attention from people. Unfortunately, there are other animals that can see better than they can in the dark, such as lions, who sit by the waterholes and wait for them to come and drink. So that was the aim of that shoot. And I have to say, it was quite unnerving sitting on the back of an open 4x4 in the dark, not being able to see my hand in front of my face, and then looking at the monitor of the camera and realizing there was a lion about 5 meters away staring at me with its pupils wide open, totally able to see what I was doing. And of course, not eating me, so that was thankful. Emily D has asked, what do flamingos do? Well, they carry on as normal. I mean, that was one of the things we discovered, was that some animals will carry on as normal at night, and the reason they were particularly keen to do that, it was the breeding season. So they were trying to feed their chicks, which were growing as fast as they could. So during the full moon, the adults were able to carry on going off and film in the middle of the night. And then the problem with that was that they'd leave their colony, the young chicks, exposed, and American crocodiles would get interested. So to see more on that, what happened, you'll have to watch Dusk Till Dawn, which is episode 6 of Night on Earth. Paul Gravel says, is it the same as what humans do after dark? I don't know what he's implying by that. We didn't see, we saw some courtship after dark in frogs in the jungle. There are a lot of croaking and a lot of action, but the problem with that was that it would attract the frog-eating bats. So yeah, we did see that kind of thing. But before I get carried away and diverted by well, Oliver Kendall has moved me onto the perfect what I wanted to talk about. What happened when it was cloudy, or when the moon hadn't risen, which is, you know, a lot of the time. Then we had to turn to thermal imaging cameras. You may have seen these before on Springwatch, actually, on a couple of other programs, but we used these to see certain animals in the dark, you know, where there really was no light. So, for example, lions, as I said, you know, they can operate when there's no moon, because they can see 6 times better than we can. So we use thermal imaging in our Moonlit Plains episode to see them hunting. I do have a lovely picture here, which again, I don't think you're going to be able to see, but basically look at Bill Markham 99 on Twitter, lions hunting hippos. The hippos couldn't see a thing. The lions could see exactly what they're doing. Advantage lions. So thermal imaging was incredible, but the only thing with that is it's monochrome, black and white. So we kind of didn't want to do all of our sequences with that, just the ones where we really had to. So in the jungle, where there's a canopy obscuring the moon, and on cloudy nights, and that's military technology. And if you don't really know what thermal imaging is, it's really a camera that can pick up a different part of the light spectrum. So what we normally see wavelengths, I've written this down, 400 to 700 nanometers. I think that's what our eyes are used to, the rainbow that you're used to. Infrared is between 1 and 14,000 nanometers. So it's way off the scale of what we can see, but the cameras can. So that was a really key tool in our toolbox. We also used ultraviolet light to see corals in the sea fluorescing. We used natural white light. So we made a cities episode where street lights were enough to see otters or various animals, black bears in America. And that was pretty exciting. And also we had a sequence where we went to Norway to film killer whales hunting by the lights of fishing boats, which looks absolutely incredible because the fishing boats are catching all these herring in the fields, all the scales kind of coming off the fish, and the massive killer whales would be swimming through these falling scales. It was like a blizzard, or as Mark, the cameraman, said, it was like a sort of 1970s glitter ball party, which is a good way of thinking of it when you're down there with these massive predators in the pitch dark, in the freezing cold, with it snowing outside. So respect to Mark and Doug who did that shoot. But yeah, that moves me on to another point, which is technology is all very well, but what's it like filming after dark? You'll have to watch our Shot in the Dark episode if you want a bit more insight into that. But I would say that the sort of summary is, number 1, mosquitoes. Number 2, snakes and crocodiles, poachers, bandits, drunkards, your body clock. I mean, you're going out in the evening when everyone else is settling down to have their dinner or have a beer. So you're, when they're all having a nice time, you're going out into the dark to see some weird thing that no one's ever seen before. So quite exciting, but quite tough on the body. And then, of course, the end of play drink that you would normally have as a camera crew would be rather ruined by beer and cornflakes. Isn't a great combination. It's definitely not a great look. So it was very tough, I think, on people. I think James Aldred, who was one of our cameramen, you may have heard of him. He's the bloke who climbs trees to film things. He has done 105 jungle shoots, and he said that the owl monkeys in Argentina were definitely the toughest shoot he's ever done. And you don't know what's going on. It is pretty scary. I mean, you might see, you might hear an elephant coming, but you might not see it unless you're looking at what the camera's seeing. There were quite a few snakes around. We did an amazing sequence with a scorpion, where the scorpions are out in the dark, and then a mouse comes across them, and you'll have to see what happens. But basically, there's a mouse called a scorpion mouse, or sometimes a grasshopper mouse, and that's quite a battle between them. Jack has asked if the animal in the Solomon Islands is heavy. We can't guess what it is yet. No, it is extremely light, and it has to be light because it flies. There's another clue. Okay, I don't even know what the time is. I'm on a tight schedule. How are we getting on? Well, we're okay. We've got another 5 minutes or so. So I was talking about how it was tough. And what did we discover? Well, we discovered that a lot of animals do what you'd expect. Jaguars go to sleep at night. It was a bit of a shame. But we discovered that there were unexpected benefits of being out at night. Like there were other animals there doing what you wouldn't expect. So while our team was supposed to be looking for jaguars, one evening they were in Brazil in the Pantanal, which is this massive swamp. And they put their cameras up at the top of the trees, and there was another cat called an ocelot. And this is, for me, one of the highlights of the series. It's an ocelot stalking through the canopy, and it's hunting sleeping birds. And there's a bird called an anhinga, which is a snake bird with a very long neck and very good. the scorpion, the ocelot is hunting hard, and it is an amazing sight to see what the ocelot does, waiting for the wind to blow and the sound of the rustling leaves, and the ocelot hunting. So Lizzie has said, say something. She's running this channel, so I don't know if she can elaborate on what she means. Now, what else do I want to say? So basically, it was tough. We discovered lots of new things. Netflix were very happy. What is an ocelot? Says Animal Art Fair. An ocelot is a spotted jungle cat, which you probably never heard of because it's very nocturnal. But if you look at night, it looks like there are other things like clouded leopards or margays. Basically, it's a beautiful forest cat. It's about that size, I think. Let me answer a few more questions. Any plans for Night on Earth 2, says Josh. Well, wouldn't we love to make it? Well, I don't know if the camera people would love to make it, but it could be. The technology, we did go for the best stories, and we did get some really good stuff, but we are always hearing about new stuff. People have been writing to us since the series with other ideas, so beer, but I don't know. You have to try it yourselves. Ask your dad. I think your dad's called Henry Forsyth One. He'll probably know. What was your favorite animal to observe at night, says Charlie Flint? Well, I think some of the most incredible ones were the animals that actually glow at night. So incredibly, we know that there are some squid that glow at night. You can see that in our Dark Sea episode. They create their own light with a chemical reaction. I think there's a chemical called luciferase that makes things glow. So the squid glow at night. We also filmed a glowing frog, and this is a new discovery that frogs in Argentina actually glow in the dark. Can you believe it? Why they do it, no one really knows. Maybe it's they can keep track on each other. Maybe they can say, look, I'm the boss. Every other glowing frog, get out of here. Maybe it's the big male frogs to say to the female frogs, aren't I impressive? I don't worry about predators. Look at me glowing. So it's there were a lot of different animals which were my favorites. We filmed another one called a colugo, which is a weird sort of flying lemur, a sort of bit like a flying squirrel, and that lives in Singapore. And we discovered, or it was discovered by scientists, that they communicate in ultrasound. So they, like bats, they squeak beyond human hearing, and that's how they communicate with each other. Were you ever scared when filming the lion, says Oliver Kendall? No, certainly not. Far too manly for that. I think I'm probably nearing the end of my stream. Have you ever had a pet frog, says Jamie Dean? I have. Well, I think after my falling in love with frogs as a kid, my mum's cousin gave me some salamanders, and then I graduated onto tree frogs. I had one called Jabba the Hutt, who was enormous, but that's probably a story for another day. In answer to the quiz, this is a Solomon's flying fox. Let's try and get it out of the sun. Pteropus raineri. So it's a bat with a wingspan of about 4 or 5 feet. And it was a pretty extraordinary sight. And we studied there for 6 months. And if anyone gets a chance to go to the Solomon Islands, I thoroughly recommend it. It's a hell of a long way, but there's so many undiscovered things. The last people who'd been to that island to look at the biology were in 1927. So it's very undeveloped, very unknown, and a fascinating place to go. Toby says he can't wait for part 2 of this. Oh no, Tubby. Sorry, Tubby. I'd probably missed a few other questions. That'll do for now. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks to Lizzie and Earth Live Lessons for setting this up. There's plenty more to come. I think there's another one this afternoon. You can look at this web stream throughout. I think she's got 100 people coming up. So enjoy all that. And you can also look at the ones that have been done before by people like Chris Packham, by Bertie Gregory. There's a load of shark stuff as well. So enjoy that, and I'll let you go and enjoy your Sunday lunch. Thanks very much. Bye. Are you sure you want to end stream? End.